I've been watching your coverage as all of this was happening and in the lead up to it, and I agree with every word. There is something that is aggravating about what has happened today, not because we wanted Joe Biden to stick around, but because essentially there has been a coup, a bloodless coup. Now, we're used to these things in our country because it's the members of parliament who pick the Prime Minister, but it is only ever the voters that are supposed to pick the president.
That's exactly it. They do not care if they have somebody who is incompetent at the helm. They want to govern by team. After that debate, we saw some top Democrats repeatedly tweeting out, like, the presidency is more of a team. It's not really a one-man job. No, it's exactly a one-man job. That's exactly how our founders created it. Read the Constitution. So it's incredibly frustrating to see them just blow right past his incompetence, a pass they would never be giving to any Republican, never mind Donald Trump. But what happened after the debate was his polls absolutely cratered. They cratered on the national level, which suggests what the popular vote is going to be. They cratered on the swing state level, which shows us how the electoral vote is going to go on the presidency. And they cratered at the lower levels in key House races, in particular across the country in blue states, in places like California and New York, which have been getting slightly redder here and there. Keep in mind, both of those states, while very blue, have had Republican governors in the past 20 years. So they're not all blue, and they're gettable. If you tick the people off enough, they can swing back to the right. And we were starting to see that in the polls there. And I think that was the last straw for Pelosi. Like, we kind of think at least we're going to lose the White House at this point, given the way that race has been handled. But we're not going to lose the House and the Senate, too. We cannot give the Republicans a blank slate, blank check to go in there and enact Trump's agenda. And I think that's why she was willing to stick the dagger in and twist.
Now, a new day is just breaking in the US. We'll find out in the next 24 hours or so whether Kamala Harris has any opposition, but it looks like the vice president, well, firstly, she's inherited the support of Biden. That matters because all of the delegates going to the convention previously were loyal to Joe Biden, so theoretically would continue to be loyal to his endorsement. What do you think of Harris as the Democratic nominee and potential president?
Where to begin? Let me start Kamala Harris style. You see, there's this thing. It's called the presidency, and it's even bigger and more important than the vice presidency. You see, and when the person running for the presidency decides not to run, the vice presidential candidate is most likely to step into those shoes. That person who talks like that is not going to be our next president. No. We have gone almost 250 years without a female president. 250. Is that because we never had a strong female leader? We never had anybody strong enough, savvy enough, confident enough to inspire, the electorate to actually pull the lever for her? No. We have had such leaders. It's just the country is used to things a certain way. And it's going to take a very special female candidate to make them see it a different way. I don't like this reality, but I see this reality. And she is not it. I'm sorry to be ad hominem, but she's a fool. She's not a smart person. If you listen to her, as I have now for so many years, you glean that she is faking it. She thinks she's Oprah with her attempts at profundity that never land. We will be unburdened by what has been. It's her only line. She says it all the time. Her other line is about Venn diagrams, which is equally stupid. And her attempt to take complex topics and reduce them down into small, digestible bits is the most offensive to me, because that happens to be what I do for a living, what you, Paul, do for a living. And it does actually take some skill and some research and some knowledge. You have to learn it forward and backward before you can explain it in a very easy to understand way to your audience. She doesn't get it. It doesn't require speaking to people like they're four, but that's her level of communication. So that person's not going to be the first female president. It's not going to happen. I would bet everything I have on it. The only way it's happening is the Democrat machine. And let's face it, some potential shenanigans at the voter box. Last time around, you don't have to believe that they switched votes like with Dominion or Smartmatic to believe that there was cheating. just look what they did in Pennsylvania, where they changed the rules and you can do all this mail-in balloting for a month beforehand, which we had never had before. Who's receiving those votes? Who's accepting those votes? Those votes can be received even if they weren't postmarked by election day. That's one way we know they manipulated the last election, and they're really good at it. So that's her best shot, but the overwhelming odds are against her.
Now, we've seen Kamala Harris run for the presidency before, but she was so bad that she had to drop out before even a single vote was cast. But then Joe Biden turned around and said he wanted not just a woman, but a woman of colour to be his vice president. Bang, she gets there and is the number 2 now. She's going to have less than a month before her convention and then only a couple of months until the actual election. Does the shorter period of time work for or against her? Because when it was a really long time last time, she was terrible.
No, I think it's unfair. I think it's better for the Republicans to have had her in the race from the get-go. To have known who their likely nominee was going to be on the other side since June, which is the way it normally happens. I mean, they've been cut short a bit on their Oppo research opportunities and so on. But having said that, she's the vice president, so they already have some Oppo research on her. And we knew that Joe Biden was infirm, so I'm sure they've been doing their homework on her. This stuff has been in the rumor mill for a while. But I think longer is better when the candidate's weak, and she's weak. And look, we haven't even gotten into what's about to come down on Kamala Harris. People are going to say that you're slut shaming and all that stuff. I don't care. She slept her way to the top. That's what happened. She was coming up the ranks in California politics, and she started sleeping with Willie Brown, who was a very, very beloved Democrat heavyweight politician out there. He took her under his wing. It's been documented. These two worked together and wound up having an affair. And he opened the doors for her in all these Democrat circles and made her this beloved person who no one had ever heard about. What had she done? What did she accomplish? Did she earn their respect or a foot in the door? No, she didn't. That's the unpleasant, ugly truth about her past. She is going to have to deal with that now. You think Trump's going to be too afraid to raise that, or his surrogates? Think again. Here's the other thing about her. They go into this contest on Monday, Kamala potentially, we assume, versus Trump, with a massive gender gap in this electorate. Trump is favored something like 15 points with men, over Joe Biden. You think that number is going to go down with Kamala Harris as the opponent? You think more men who are getting ready to vote for Trump are going to see Kamala Harris enter the race and say, you know what, I'm for her? Zero chance. Not one of those men is going to move. And look over on the other side. The reason Joe Biden was losing is because he has a small advantage over Trump on the women, but it's only down to 2 or 3 points, according to the latest poll. It was much bigger back in 2020. And so are we going to have such huge numbers of women who either were sitting this one out or who were toying with the Trump Vance ticket say, I'm inspired by her. The only women who feel that way about Kamala Harris are Black women, and they've already been factored in. They're already in her poll numbers, and women who are obsessed with abortion. And all of those women are already voting Democrat, and we're not flirting with the JD Trump ticket, that you do not vote Republican if abortion is your number one issue. So I just don't see what demographic group she's really going to help him with. And I also think when you look at Black voters, Trump is pulling Black men over to the Republican ticket. Some Black women, but for the most part, they're diehard Democrats. Black men like Trump, among other reasons, because he's a strong man. That he's strong. He doesn't it's a thing culturally. Same for Hispanic men. They're not going to look at the woman he calls a laughing Kamala with her cackle and her weird body movements, her inappropriate self-aggrandizement at her own failed humor attempts and say, she's for me. She's on brand. That's a shirt I want to put on or a mug I want to drink from. So I really think this is all about those down ballot races where you do have diehard Democrats who love abortion and love, yay, woman, hear me roar, in California and New York and other blue states.
Pretty obvious that until this announcement was formally made, Trump was the runaway favourite and the chance was that he could go into places where he didn't even expect to win. But now that it has happened and there will be someone new, what do you think of his odds before the announcement and now after the announcement?
I think they're the same. I really think they're the same. I guess I'll make them 2 points better on the Dem side today because she's younger than Trump is. She's 59. And the Republicans have done a very good job of drilling it into people's head that Joe Biden's too old. It's not really been their message. It's been he's infirm. They understand they have a 78-year-old nominee on their side too. But the Democrats do have a slight advantage now being able to say, because we know that the vast majority of Americans think both candidates were too old, Trump and Biden. So now they have age on their side if she's the one saying Donald Trump is too old to be president. I just don't think that's going to do it. This guy got shot less than a week ago and then took the debate or the convention stage and went on for a 90-minute stem winder. I'm 25 years younger than he is, and I was falling asleep just begging for him to wrap so I could go back and go to bed. I don't know how he has this kind of energy. So I just don't think it works with Trump, but it's a good line for them to use.
See you later, Megyn. Talk to you next week.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.